Welcome to Real Mob Stories with James Proctor. Hope everyone's doing well today on this Monday. I have a few stories I'm tracking today and want to share with you. Over the weekend, I was shared a TikTok post from Michael Francis on Sammy Gravano. I want to play for you and actually discuss this with you. It's very interesting and deals with a person changing and transformation. Can a person actually change their life? We'll go into that. Also, several people commented on a video I did on inducted mob members that weren't 100% Italian, or they came from the north part of Italy. I want to expand on that just a little. And finally, who makes the best bread in New York? There's a long history of the mafia and Italian bakeries, both in New York and in Italy. And I know you'll find it fascinating. If you like this content about the mafia and Cosa Nostra, please smash that like button. Also, please do me a big favor and subscribe to Real Mob Stories with James Proctor. Without further delay, on to our feature presentation. As I mentioned before, I was speaking with Michael Francis this weekend, and he shared with me a TikTok video that Sammy Gravano did. And I want to play it for you, and then we'll discuss it. So here is the video.
The mafia was life-changing. I went to church and I was thinking about becoming a born-again Christian. I'm still considering it. I haven't done it yet. I know one thing, that's life-changing. I always believed in God. Living that way with a belief of God, this is life-changing. And the earlier they can change their life, the better. If you're looking to change your life, you maybe should consider becoming a born-again Christian. And it's a beautiful thing. You could live a beautiful life. And we all want to believe in something. Everybody believes in something. I don't care what, it could be a Muslim, you could be a Jew, whatever it is, everybody's looking for something to have their life better, to change their life, to pray to. When you're sick, when your family member is sick, you're going to pray to something, otherwise you're going to have a miserable life. I could go to the bathroom and I'm constipated. I pray to God, let me go to the bathroom, bro.
Okay, so yeah, so I have a few comments to make on this. First of all, I'm a Christian myself, and I'm a born again Christian, and I accepted Christ back when I was 10 years old. And I know that we live in such a skeptical society. I know people will criticize when someone accepts Christ, and we see that. I get it. That's just the society that we're in. And, I remember Michael Francis had been criticized, a couple months back when he had the son of Sam on, Berkowitz on. And a lot of people were saying, how could this guy that killed all these people in New York, in 1977, how could he actually accept Christ? And, you even hear like, you look at Joey Merlino, he'll say, hey, they accept Christ and all that when they get the cuffs on. And then when they get out of jail, then, they stop with the religion. And so, most people struggle with how, what I've seen is two things. Most people struggle with how a good person can end up being victimized by bad people, how God could allow good people to struggle. And also, how can a person that has been bad just say they changed and then everything is forgiven? And and that's a great point, actually. It's all about actions. And I'll tell you this, just because I've accepted Christ, I still sin, I still do wrong. All of us do wrong. So we're all in that same boat. And I understand that uh that sin, that bad things, are, murder, obviously, in society, that's worse than, someone that stole a piece of bubble gum, for example. So the thing is, you still face consequences for your actions. That doesn't change. But the thing is, for me, I hope this is true. I hope that people, I want all people to have that transformation of faith. And, the thing is that a person that truly accepts Christ, become born again, they have to grow in that faith. Nobody can can just buy salvation. Also, even though faith is the requirement for salvation, the Bible also states that faith without works is dead. So a person that truly has changed will show evidence by that walk. So it's walk the walk instead of just talking the talk. And I think what's happened is, as you get older, you start to see your own mortality. I know for me personally, I've lost several friends the past few years. I was down in Colombia. I had quite a few American friends that was down there with me. And two of my best friends passed. And so, I just think as we get older that death, it just is knocking on our door. Death is always around us. And so I just think that as Sammy, he's almost 80 years old. I just think that as he's getting older, he realizes he doesn't have much time left. So, with that said, I'm not one to judge someone's faith. I'm not one to say, well, this is bullshit or is this true? I can't do that. But I also know that people have been hurt by Sammy. Sammy has destroyed a lot of people's lives. He's taken a lot of lives. And so it's hard for those people to be able to look at Sammy as anything other than, a cold-blooded killer. But, what I would encourage Sammy to do, if he's truly going down this road of becoming a Christian, I encourage him to talk with Joy Faraci. The situation with Alan Kaiser, I know I bring it up, but that family needs closure. And the thing is that Sammy will talk to them, and they might never accept Sammy's apology. But the thing is that I think that Sammy, that family needs a closure, and whether or not Sammy gets forgiveness for an apology, that's not what is important as helping that family to get some closure. And there's other families that he's been involved with. But the reason I single out Alan Kaiser is that he was not part of that life. He was a 16-year-old. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so I just encourage Sammy to reach out to those victims, and let's see if this is true or not about his transformation. That's one of the things that I was speaking with Michael about, is that he believes that people can change. He wants to give people that opportunity. And he's been working with Sammy for, quite a few years to try to encourage him in his walk of faith. And that's what he's trying to do with Gene Borello. And, I hope that he can get his life together. And, I think that we want that for everybody, right? So just give me your thoughts on this. What do you think about Sammy Gravano in stating that he is on that road of becoming a Christian, becoming born again? Do you think it's real? Do you think that he's just blowing smoke? I'd love to get your comments on that. And so going on to our next video, I want to play a video I did regarding mobsters not being 100% Italian. And then we'll go over this, because there was part of it too that was part of the video, but the other part was dealing with Greg Scarpa, because Greg Scarpa is Italian, but he was from the northern part of Italian, which you don't see very many mobsters from. So let me play this video for you. Interesting how the requirements for being inducted into Cosa Nostra has changed over the years. Did you know that originally you had to be 100% Sicilian, either born in Sicily or with roots in Sicily? Then they changed it where you could be 100% Italian from southern Italy, both on mother and father's side. However, by the late 70s into the 1980s, you could be half Italian as long as you were fully Italian on your father's side with an Italian surname. There were rumors that you had some mobsters in the 1990s change their birth certificates and taking their mother's maiden name so they could qualify for induction into one of the 5 families. Colombo mobster Greg Scarpa Sr. was nearly denied membership into Cosa Nostra because his family was from the northern Italian Veneto province. However, his money-making abilities and willingness to do work convinced Colombo family leadership to induct him anyway. When Joe Massino became boss of the Bonanno family, he went back with the old rule of inductees being 100% Italian on both the mother and father's side. Okay, so one of the things that what you were seeing there were examples of mobsters that weren't 100% Italian. And so, I'll just kind of go over that evolution, quickly. So originally you had to be 100%, actually 100% Sicilian. So during the days of the Black Hand, for example, going back to the days of the early 1900s through the 20s, the old Mustache Pete's, they would only make people that were Sicilian. And actually, you had to be on the western part of Sicily. They wouldn't even make people from the eastern part. So you would have people from Palermo, you'd have people from Castellamarse, Del Mar, and from places like that. But you would not have people from the eastern part of Sicily. And originally, you couldn't be made and also be Italian. And what you noticed you had the war in the late 20s into the 30s, and then Lucky Luciano helped to build the commission. And one of the things about Luciano is that the Mustache Pete's, they wouldn't even deal with Jewish people. They wouldn't deal with other nationalities, even as associates. But this newer breed was a little bit more willing to accept, people that were not 100% Sicilian. But, originally it had to be all Italian. And so what you would typically see was mostly people from Sicily and then the southern part of Italy. And regarding Greg Scarpa Jr., he was from the Veneto area, so he was from the regions towards the north of Italy, and it's totally different there than it is in the south. What I've noticed about Italy is the further north you go, the more European in culture the people are, and they also tend to be wealthier, tends to be more industrial compared to in the south, where in Sicily and in southern Italy, where there's more agricultural influences. And what I wanted to point out about Scarpa was he got made in 1953. He got made when Profaci was the boss of the Colombo family. And even at that time, Greg Scarpa was making a lot of money, and he was given a piece of work to do by, a murder by Joe Profaci, and took care of it. And they debated whether or not that this guy could be made, because he couldn't prove any lineage from the south part of Italy or from Sicily. But they went ahead and got him made. And so what happened, I believe in the 70s, is towards the late 70s, early 80s, you started having the requirement wave that you had to be 100% Italian. And you just had to be 100% Italian on your father's side, and you had to have an Italian surname. And so that's what happened. So you had quite a few people, even like John Gotti Jr., for example. He's not 100% Italian, but he's actually was made boss. And so what you saw with the mob was that a lot of these mobsters started assimilating more into the American culture. And so they would be marrying Irish women or Jewish women, Polish women, German women, examples. And so you didn't have as many purebred 100% Italians. And many of the old school people like Joe Massino, he didn't think it was a good idea, because he felt that these people that weren't 100% Italian, they were going to be more likely to flip. And so he actually put that rule back in place that you need to be 100% Italian. In fact, one of the things interesting about uh, Joe Massino is that he was encouraging fathers to bring their sons, their nephews, their relatives into Cosa Nostra, because he felt that if you would have more of the family members like that, that those people would be less likely to flip. So I think today, for the most part, it's still you can be made even if you're not 100% Italian, as long as you're Italian on your father's side. And though that's my understanding. I haven't heard any different. If anyone's got any other understanding of that, or want to have a different opinion than me on this, just let us know. And then the final thing I want to talk about is, where can you get the best bread in New York? And I did a short that dealt with the mob and bakeries. And believe it or not, uh, one of the most infamous bakeries that produced what was considered the best bread in New York was owned by the mob. So let me play this short for you, and then we'll talk about it. The mafia had taken control of the bakery industry. They both ran Italian bakeries and extorted bakery businesses for protection money. Italian breads and pastries are favorites among many Italians, and every neighborhood in New York had a local family-owned Italian bakery selling the most finest breads, pies, pizza, cannolis, etc. for decades. The Catalano brothers bakery in Middle Village, Queens, was owned by powerful Bonanno Sicilian faction capo Salvatore Toto Catalano. This place was in business for over 35 years and was well known for their Italian bread. Deceased Bonanno capo Vito Grimaldi was a baker by trade, and his family had been in the bread and pizza business for more than a century. He owned Grimaldo's bakery in Ridgewood, Queens. It's also known for having the finest quality of bread. In Italy, bread retailers of all sizes, whether a street vendor or a supermarket, had to buy their bread from bakeries tied to the Camorra Mafia for years, or otherwise deal with some of the mob's wrath. Those that dared not to buy their bread from the mob could see their shops burned or otherwise punished. So, have any of you been to Grimaldi's? Grimaldi's was always considered, one of the best, if not the best, for Italian bread. And then the Catalano brothers, that was infamous. That was around for 35 or so years, and supposedly, had really good bread. So let me know who you believe has the best bread in New York. So I just have a quick story I want to share with you about the mob and bakers in New York. So during the 1990s, a small group of unscrupulous bakers had tried to corner the Italian bread markets in parts of New York City by using threats of violence. The cartel controlled the distribution of fresh Italian bread to small grocery stores in Brooklyn and Staten Island, and they'd be inflating prices, and they were eliminating competition. However, investigators found that bakers and store owners were reluctant to cooperate. The only way to get to the heart of the Italian bread racket, they decided, was to open a bakery themselves. So a team of a half dozen undercover detectives opened a storefront at West 11th Street in Greenwich Village in early 1993 and called it Louis Basil's. Wearing baker whites, they pretended to bake several dozen loaves of bread each day, taking turns getting up at 3 a.m. to drive to New Jersey to buy the real stuff and wrapping the loaves in the customized white paper sleeves that are the signature of authentic, fresh Italian bread. It wasn't long after the investigation began. It was not long after the investigators began trying to sell the bread to neighborhood grocery stores in Manhattan and Brooklyn that they heard from the Association of Independent Bakers and Distributors of Italian Bread. A detective posing as a baker was told by two members of the association that violence could come to Basil's and its employees if they didn't play by association rules. The rules involved fixed prices for bread and a system of distribution that forced a store to buy from a single baker. And if a store wanted to ship to another baker, the association had to be consulted and cash paid to the former baker. So the association controlled virtually all of Staten Island and most neighborhoods in Brooklyn where Italian bread was popular, and was expanded into Manhattan, Queens, and Westchester and Nassau counties. Authorities have heard allegations that organized crime had taken control of the Italian bread industry, and the association held regular meetings where disputes between members were sometimes mediated by the association's leaders. Back in 1990, a decision was made to raise the retail price of bread from 75 to 85 cents, with 5 cents of the increase going to the bakers, and the other 5 was divided between the bread deliveries and the store owners. So, as you see at least in the early to mid 90s, the association of bakers was infiltrated by the mob, and so there was price fixing. And you see what would happen if you didn't play by the rules, you would face the consequences. So, I just thought that was an interesting story. But again, let me know where you think the best Italian bread is, the best bakery in New York. And that's all I have today. So again, please hit the like button. Please consider subscribing to Real Mob Stories with James Proctor. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.